Adelaida, thank you for being with us today and participating in one of our executive chats. Adelaida Severson is someone that our firm first was introduced to when we were doing one of the studies as a pre-campaign process for the Diocese of Phoenix. And one of our vice presidents, Melpa Merdakis, spent some time with Adelaida, and they got to know each other, which was great. And through
Right.
Melpa, we've got to know each other. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your business, because I find your whole business and the business model very interesting.
So first of all, thanks George for having me, and really appreciate. And it's good to see you again. And it was good to connect with Melpo. So our business, we are here headquartered in Gilbert, Arizona. We're called Bushtex Incorporated, and we do satellite communications just all over the world. In fact, we hardly do any business here in Gilbert, but what we do is we transmit data and video and information through our equipment and through the satellites and just do end to end. So we do it for businesses, we do it for broadcasting. So any sports related events that need to go live and any news events, as well as for the government. So if I tell you what we do for them, I'm going to have to kill you. But no, but we actually we are considered essential because right now we have locations all over the world for the different military outlets and different government entities to transmit, do surveillance, and just transmit data.
It's pretty
So
exciting. It's pretty exciting work, it
it
sounds.
really is, and there's never a dull moment, let me tell you. It's always something exciting and new. But we do it all over the world, so we're impacted, here in our little Gilbert office. But we're a small business that I feel like that does big things.
But talk to me a little bit, if you don't mind, about what how COVID-19 has impacted your business, but also your community. And I know you're involved with St. Anne's Church. So any of those ideas, I'd love to hear your comments on.
Sure, and this is just kind of an amazing time. If you really think about it, I don't think any time in the history of the United States or maybe in the world that we had both a pandemic and a downturn, right, at the same time. So there was so much having to sort of, punt and figure out what you're going to do next and see where we're at. Fortunately, and thank God, our company has not seen too many of the economic effects of this. Our business as usual. We actually are considered an essential, and I hate that word because it almost sounds like the have and have-nots. But we're considered an essential just because we have to keep things going for the government, and so we have locations all over the world. The only way that has impacted us is that travel has been inhibiting us to go places where we need to and bring back some of our technicians when their rotations are over. So some of them are still there. Airports are closed. As far as the community at large here in the town of Gilbert, and I will have to say, and it's just a brag point, that the town officials here in Gilbert have done such an amazing job of ensuring that communication is key. So our mayor, for example, would have these daily updates. She would tweet them out, do them on social media. They even had like a text type of scenario where you could text your phone number to this number and get daily updates if you needed. And a lot of it is really more executive orders from the governor, just on an official level of what the latest COVID tragedies are, or the latest numbers. But our governor did do a shutdown, and I got to tell you that was kind of an amazing thing, because I think in some ways a lot of people probably thought it was somewhat negative. I tend to like to look at things in a more positive way, in that sometimes I think in this world we need to really sort of shut down and sit back and reflect on things and just take a breather And I think this forced us to do it. I mean, the air is cleaner now. It forced a lot of people to look at their systems and their protocols and just what they're doing in their businesses, and as well as our town. With our church, it was interesting because I do serve on the finance council as well and have been involved with fundraising on a diocesan level as well as
Mhm.
in our parish. Our parish is a very generous parish, I will say that first and foremost. And I think it matters on the leadership of your parish. And so I'm not only involved with philanthropic with my church, but also in the town as I've been asked to chair a campaign. It's a $2 million campaign to raise funds for our historical museum. So there's a lot of stuff going on, as well as, with our university, Arizona State University, there's some efforts there. So all over the place, people are looking for money, not only, some of the social services, especially now that need it, but others campaigns that are going and had to shut down because of this and having to cancel their galas that, would normally give them the money that they need. And so that has kind of helped us to
It,
look
it,
at things in different ways and how to reach out to people during this pandemic.
why don't you talk a little bit about St. Anne's and what has been different at St. Anne's, your parish?
Okay, sure. Okay, so here in Gilbert at St. Anne at my parish, obviously we could not have mass. We couldn't go each Sunday. So our parish is pretty forward thinking anyway. So we have always had live streaming. So that's what we went to. And being that I'm also on the financial parish council or financial council of our parish, there was some concern about the fact that we weren't going to be getting plate income, each week, and
Sure.
because people weren't going to be there. So what we decided to do was sort of just, let people know that they can give online.
Right.
Um, that's what our world has become, and we had that option. We always had that option. And lo and behold, people gave more. Our plate income increased a lot. And our pastor was just, he texted me, he's like, Adelaida, we were so concerned it was going to be this much, and it more than doubled. So that was great. And so
That's amazing.
yeah, and it gave us such pause, but it also gave us so much hope that people are still out there, willing to give, because you don't know what people's situations are. I just talked about how our business was still going. We're not in the same boat with a lot of people, even though they say that. A lot of people out there are waiting for that next unemployment check, or even, their world has rocked, because they've been laid off and whatnot. So we were really trying to be sensitive in how we asked, and even interestingly, a lot of our parish staff who don't get paid a lot are actually asking our pastor, and if they get a stimulus check, they'll go ahead and donate it, to the parish. So
That's great. That's great. That's really
yeah,
amazing.
and so while this is going on, of course, we have the charity development appeal that's going on as well, and that was another thing that hit us at the same time. And
So,
our go
so
ahead.
you and your husband shared that this year, correct?
So we chaired it last year and the year
Okay.
before, and when we
Okay.
say chair it, we chaired it for the whole diocese,
Right.
which
Right.
meant, we traveled with the bishop and whatnot. And
Right.
so of course, a lot of times pastor comes to me and says, "So what should we do this year?" And what it is, it's just basically an ask
Right.
that we do every year. This
Right.
year we did it differently, and Father just devised a way of just doing personal asks. We have a goal, and instead of, because we couldn't, do it from the pulpit, if you will, and have envelopes in the pews, he just went ahead and said, "Hey, look, this is how much you gave last year. Is there any way that you could give a little more?" And I think people responded, and I think we, again, did pretty well. I mean, we're a parish that always reaches our goal anyway. But you know how these things are. There's always that 20%, that give. The
Yeah.
rest, not so much.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So it was our goal to try to reach out to those 80%ers that don't usually give.
One of the things that I read about your historic museum that
Yeah,
you're in a campaign for, and I
mhm.
guess you went public
We did.
and had a gala or
We
what it
did.
was, and it was right around the time of COVID-19 when it struck. So what's going on with that campaign?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that. Well, thank goodness we had the gala, and we raised more than we ever had.
Wow.
Then it was sort of like, oh, now what? And of course, I think after everything hit, everybody personally had to sort of gather themselves together, let alone ask money from people. Like, what is that about?
Right.
So we actually just had we had two Zoom meetings. One was just more for me as a chair to kind of tap in and get a pulse of people and just say, hey, how are you doing? Not talking about raising money, not any of that, just how are you? And I think the committee appreciated that just because it was sort of that human touch. And I'm so over these Zooms anymore because I feel like I miss seeing people in person. But no, so that kind of gave them, sort of motivation to think about asking for more. So we're about 1.5 million. Our goal is 2 million. We're hoping to break ground. And we started this brick campaign where you could buy bricks. And, that's not always such a big part of your overall amount, but we kind of figured that in. And we're that what a better way to do that than do it on your social media and online right now, where people are still, um, you know, people are always online, I guess, is
Well,
kind of what I'm getting at.
so listening to you talk a few minutes ago about when the time came for you to reach out and speak to people about giving, that you would always start the conversation with "How are you doing?"
Right.
So the reason that's interesting, I think this is one of the few executive chats I haven't started with that, because we've been counseling our clients and other nonprofits to do just that very thing. We call it
Mm.
taking the temperature. So you're
Yes.
reaching you're
Yes.
reaching out to people, you're finding out how are they
Taking the
doing,
pulse.
and then
Right.
almost kind of asking permission. Are you open to having this conversation about the campaign? So it sounds like you're doing it perfectly. It
Oh, I
sounds like
hope
it's
so.
going. Yeah,
Well, and
yeah.
I really genuinely wanted to know how they were doing because
Sure.
this is a really, there's a large age range on our cabinet. So the younger ones, you've got, single moms, you've got, an older group that, have a lot of fear about this. And so there's a range of emotions going on right now that I might not even be aware of. And so to be able to get the pulse of that was really telling for me. And you're right, taking the temperature, because like I said, that age range, I mean, and I talk about this Zoom thing, and I just wanted for a minute, it's interesting. We're in this day and age that we can do this now. People are getting used to it. Some people are not. And for me, it's been somewhat humanizing because I'll be on some Zoom chats with other executives and, who I kind of respect and, have so much admiration for. And all of a sudden, a little kid comes into the room and jumps on his lap and, he's talking to the kid and, and also looking at people's bookshelves behind them and what kind of books they read, it's been really neat, but
Yeah.
it doesn't take the place of that human, interaction in person. So, but anyway,
Adelaide, tell me a little bit about the museum. You refer to it as a historic museum, but is it
yes.
is it indigenous to a culture part, or Gilbert, or what?
Right. So we just changed to brand it. We're calling it HD South, which is Heritage District South. Here in Gilbert, in the town of Gilbert, we've sort of resurrected our town, our old town, if you will. And this museum sits quite right at the beginning of it or the end of it, however you want to look at it. And it sits on the corner, and it's indigenous to our town and our history. And so when you think of historical museums, George, they're not as for lack of a better word, sexy anymore. People don't want to go to them and find out. It's not like a tourist type of thing that people normally would want to go to. So we've kind of looked at it and really kind of rebranded it to make it more intergenerational. So we have programming now that include things for younger kids that will bring them to the museum, as well as sort of the older generation, if you will, where we're having like chair yoga and quilting and things like that. So kind of a gathering place because it's in a wonderful location. People didn't really know about it, but now they kind of do. It was, I don't want to say it was headed for closure, but I think it was more headed for a rejuvenation. And so that's what we wanted our town to gather around. We are building just a building next to it for more ability to have space for the classes and for events, and then just more programming to kind of bring people back to understanding Gilbert, understanding Arizona, understanding some of the indigenous cultures that are around us, Native Americans, and
Yeah,
it's just been
it sounds great. I want to talk about the CVA, and you mentioned something about being able to travel with Bishop Olmsted. And
right.
I've worked around the country with many dioceses, and I've had the opportunity, the unique opportunity to spend time with a lot of bishops. And I will tell you that Bishop Olmsted is a unique individual in so many ways. So that must have been a wonderful opportunity for you and your husband to travel with him and spend time with him, and to share with him things that he wants to talk about, because he's such a fascinating individual, and
Mm-hmm.
so spiritual.
Very much so. Very
Yeah.
much so. And that it is. It's really intimidating because you're in a car for 4 to 5 hours, can't go anywhere, and you're with your bishop. You're
Yeah.
your most spiritual leader. And we were told like, okay, he's very quiet, he's very reverent. You might not talk a lot. Oh my gosh, it was like all of a sudden he was like Mr. Chatty Cathy. We were just talking about everything from, Barry, like my husband Barry likes to hunt. And we found out that he and Barry actually have a lot in common in how they've grown up on a ranch, hunting. And it brought out a side of Bishop that I don't think I've ever seen, how he was telling us how he was a cowboy, he was on the path to being a cowboy, but ended up, going the other way to being a religious leader. But just also bringing up some hardcore topics that, of course, with me being a former journalist, since I had the bishop all to myself, just bringing up certain things about the church, about our faith that I was wanting to hear from him, and it was, and, of course we prayed and, things like that, but it's just being around him just kind of grounds you.
I mean, when you think about the right person living in Arizona, in the Diocese of Phoenix, it's just, your diocese received a great gift from God to have him with you. But he also, I'm sure, sees being in Arizona as a great gift for him personally.
Yeah, and yeah, he's so down to earth. At the end of the day, we stop for gas, and he starts to pull out the windshield wiper cleaner and starts cleaning. We're like, no, you can't be doing that. He's like, oh no worries. But it is, and he's there's a very spiritual side to him, but he also
Oh,
has good people in business sense as well.
yeah.
So we're really lucky.
When you talked about you expected the bishop to be very quiet, my immediately I thought, well, it would be hard for him to be quiet around you, because you've got you've got a lot of energy and a lot of personality.
Aw.
So, and I think he probably fed off that. So
Maybe,
that was great.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
great. That was
Thanks.
great.
Yeah.
Have you learned anything about yourself in the last 3 months?
It's been, like I said, it's been kind of an interesting time in my life, just because my twins, who are my youngest set, I guess, of kids, graduated. This was their senior year. So to see how they handled not having the last prom, the last, sports game that could have gone to the championships, to feel that, I don't know, I would say it wasn't pain. It was just sort of like, because we did that when we were in high school, and then to not have your traditional graduation. And I just remember, thinking, God, how sad. I feel so bad for this. And then my kids are like, Mom, it's fine. This is, it is what it is. They were in, and then we kind of had a talk about it, about how at the end of the day, they have never had what we had. So they don't know what a regular graduation was, or what a traditional, so I guess they were fine with it. I just felt bad. And so this time, it turns out, so during that time, they found out, that they were going to be going away to a really cool, they got some great college acceptances. And I think for me, this time of having all of my kids home, I wasn't traveling, my husband wasn't traveling, so we were home like
How many do
24/7. I
how
have
many
three
do you have?
boys.
Three
Three
boys,
boys, yeah.
twins
So
and one.
twins, yeah. So they're all going to be in college next fall, which could be kind of crazy, but we're so it kind of gave us that time, that family time that I don't think we really experienced since they were little, and so the conversations we were having that were more uh, cerebral, I guess, and just more adult, having dinners. But I think for us, as a family, it really kind of, I mean, we had some pretty down and dirty come to Jesus moments, because we, like I said, we've never been on top of each other like that in so long. But I think at the end of the day, I found that our family, or people around me, are able to be really resilient, because this was kind of put upon us without warning, that we had to be shut down, that we had to not go into work, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. And how do you run a business then, and so being able to realize that you have people on your team that are resilient. And it's interesting when things like this happen, how either the worst or the best comes out in people. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
I
So
mean, but from from a leadership standpoint, you and your husband had to adjust.
very much so. Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Um, well, this has been a delight to spend time with you again. Um, as as I think about all of the various aspects, you have a very full life as a mom, and as an executive, and as a philanthropist, and
Yeah.
as a leader in your community. I think, and it's funny because I think we still have stereotypes, and the fact that it seems like you're doing it all, and I'm sure you make it look a lot easier than it actually is.
Somebody had said it's like that swan that's sort of going across, and then but underneath, they're just like flapping away trying to get through. But you do it, and I find for me, my daily morning, just getting up in the morning and having gratitude for that
Yeah,
is just
yeah,
kind of one of those things that you just helps you to start your day,
yeah,
because it's all because of the Lord above, that we have what we have. And if you're blessed, then I think it's your duty to bless others, And so for me, I'm blessed, and I feel blessed to be able to bless others, and to do that, being able to be philanthropic, to be able to be that employer that is able to provide for your employees, and to be able to make them have the be comfortable and stable, and so that's a lot to take
yeah,
on.
yeah, and the whole issue of unemployment. As an employer, I'm an employer. We've been very fortunate in keeping our team together,
Great, good.
and so
Yeah.
we didn't have to lay any people off. So that was terrific.
Yeah.
And that's really a result of so many of our clients deciding, we're going to stay the course, and
Yeah.
we're going to continue to work with you. And so that's a gift that I would speak of, that we received. And I think it speaks volumes about the confidence that they have in themselves, but also the confidence that they would place in us.
Right, right,
So
absolutely.
one of our schools that we're working with in New York City, so in right in the center of the city,
Yeah.
The head of the school said to, actually the pastor, it's a Catholic school, the pastor of the school said to one of our executives, Teresa Schubeck, who's executive vice president, that he was grateful for her enthusiasm and grateful
Mm.
for her encouragement. And to me, that's also something that's that, hopefully if we can provide it, that's wonderful.
Well, and I think it helps them to feel stable then if they see confidence in you and that
Yeah,
you can impart that on them, then that's all the better, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's wonderful. That's good
yeah.
to hear it, George. I like that. That's
Well,
awesome.
Adelaida, I'm very grateful for you taking the time out of your day to spend some moments with me.
Thanks again for having me. And George, next time you're in Arizona, we have to do coffee or something.
We'll get together. Absolutely.
Right, right.
Thank you.
All right.
Be
Thanks,
be
George.
be safe. Be
You
safe.
too.
Okay.
Be healthy in
Thank
your
you.
pod. All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.